Here we have a new 2023 Toyota Highlander XLE. This one comes in midnight black metallic, and then we have black leatherette softex interior. The powertrain consists of a 2.4 liter turbocharged 4-cylinder, made it to an 8-speed automatic transmission. That gets us 265 horsepower, 309 pound-feet of torque, and then we have a tow rating of 5,000 pounds. But coming around to the front end here, we get our LED headlamps along with LED fog lights. Still a good look, even though it's been out since 2020. And then coming to the wheels here, these are gonna be 18s. And it goes pretty nicely to have a mid-grade trim here, so these wheels really do a pretty good job. And then we have our power door lock controls here, power mirror controls here. You just pick a side, and then you can adjust. And then rear window lock. We have one-touch automatic windows on all 4 doors. And then bottle holder here, stores in the door panel. Automatic high beams, auto stop, and then our power lift gate can all be controlled from up here. Brightness of the gauge cluster, and we can change our trip in that bottom right corner of the gauge cluster using this here, and it'll show even distance until you need to take it in for maintenance. And then gas cap is lockable. Gonna pop the hood for later. Little storage pocket here. Manual tilt telescoping steering wheel. And here is our power driver's seat with power lumbar support. I like the design there. Now before we take a look at the rear legroom, there's the parts content info, which I like the Toyota does, so you can see where your vehicle is actually coming from. And then we do get the coveted rear window blinds, even on the XLE, which is nice. It's kind of hard to put on while I'm holding the camera, but it's available. 2 bottle holders here. I like that we have the seat back pockets on both sides. But now let's check out this leg room. Make sure the seat's all the way back. So pretty good leg room back here, being 6'3" with longer legs. Kneecaps, I can just feel the hairs on my knees barely touching the back of the seat. My knees not actually touching it. That's pretty impressive. And then down here we have our rear AC controls, fan speed here. We can cut the whole system off. We can control fan direction here, set the auto mode, and then we can adjust temperature there as well. And then if we want to turn the auto mode off, just adjust the fan speed. And then 2 USB-C charge ports down there. It's a view of the front from back here. And I like that this second row has cup holders here. And then AC vents up top. Grab handle here. We can probably hold 2 or 3 hangers on this hook. Let's go ahead and make our way to the back. Now for those of you that are worried about getting your gas siphoned or having somebody put something in your tank, this is lockable again. So that's nice, and the gas cap is there. So you can't push it to open it from outside. And there's our back end. The luggage rack on top. While this is opening, take a look underneath. Spares down there. There's the exhaust. And then this is with the 3rd row folded down. And then when I fold it back up, there's your space. So still tons of space here, and it's really easy to adjust these seats. So I can lean them back some if I want to. Let's say I just have one person in the back and I want to fold this down. I can do that. So pretty impressive setup. And then this one has the first aid kit, or emergency assistance kit, excuse me. And then all-weather floor mats. An additional storage down in here, and there's your jack and all that. So pretty good storage again, quite impressed. And then in the 3rd row, cup holders on either side there. But the Highlander just does a super great job at making sure that there's space for cargo as well as your passengers, and it's easy to choose between the two. So again, this is what you use to slide the seat back and forth here. I think I grabbed the wrong one earlier. And then you can actually use this to tumble the seat down. And there it is folded flat. So you can run stuff theoretically all the way from the back all the way to the front. And then you can just pull this and put the seat back up. But I like this XLE, and I want to give a huge shout out to John Roberts Toyota for allowing me to review this Highlander today. But I'm gonna show you all this window sticker. And let me know what you think in the comments if this is actually worth what they're trying to charge for it. And I think it's a pretty decent price, $45,091. And it's still hard to find these, so there's a little market adjustment here, but nothing crazy here at John Roberts Toyota, especially since they only have a couple new vehicles, pretty much like every other Toyota store, as they're still trying to come back from that chip shortage. But power front passenger seat here, little storage pocket in here, lockable glove compartment, owner's manuals. And I popped that hood earlier, so let's just go ahead and see what's under here. But there's a 2.4 liter turbocharged 4-cylinder. And I reviewed an L and a Limited with this powertrain. A lot of people don't like it. I guess they just don't like the thought of having a 4-cylinder as opposed to V6, but I just like how this thing pulls better. And I'll show you that in the test drive. There's a blind spot monitor here, and then these mirrors are also heated. I'll top in here. So leather wrap steering wheel feels pretty nice. Over here to the radio, it doesn't flash like that. That's just how my camera's picking it up. I think this is either a 7 or 8 inch screen here, but we do get AM, FM, XM radio along with Bluetooth audio. And then we have wireless Apple CarPlay, wired Android Auto compatibility, as well as Apple Music and Amazon Music when you have a subscription. And the same thing with your navigation. You can go ahead and get a subscription for that. And that'll show you how you connect your Bluetooth devices. And then all of your settings are here, including that Wi-Fi hotspot. You have apps, you can customize the vehicle, customize the display, so on and so forth. And then all of your vehicle settings are right in here. So if you want to actually use a screen instead of these buttons down below for the AC, you can do that. And the volume knob is here. You can mute it there. But down here, we have 3-stage heated seats for the front. We can control our climate here. Temperature there. We can toggle the auto there. Toggle the AC here. And then turn the auto off. You just have to adjust the fan speed. And then you can hit this here to control the airflow, which I like. You can control where it comes from, either toggling up or down, so you don't have to go through the whole system. If you want it on your face and you accidentally skipped it, you can just go back to do that. And then rear AC, you can control that here. And then you can just have the whole thing set up if you want to control their fan speed or their auto mode. You can do all of that. Or you can just turn the whole system off. And there's a front system you can toggle off as well. So I like how they have that set up. Hazards are here. Wireless charging pad right here. Additional storage here, which I'm glad they did. Then the USB-A, 2 USB-C ports, and then a 12 volt here. Cup holders here, shifter here, pull this lever, reverse, neutral, drive, and then you can manually shift here. And then you have 3 drive modes: Eco, Normal, and Sport. Electronic parking brake, pull up to engage, hit the brake, press down and disengage, automatic brake hold, traction control, snow mode, and then center console cubby space there. So I actually like that you can slide that back and forth, and then got extra stuff in it. Removable tray right here, 12 volt down in there, and then it's pretty easy to get that back in there. Just hard to do it with one hand. And then this one also has power sunroof. You can one touch open that. You can also tilt it as well if you want to. All those controls are there. Sunglasses holder, and then you have this that turns into a visor as well. Then you have your universal garage door transmitter there. There's a view of the back from up here. And then back to the steering wheel. Turn signals on the stock there. can adjust your headlamps there, turn the daytime running lights off or set it to auto. Fog lights are here, and then click back for the high beams in auto mode. You can do that, or you can turn them off, and then you'll just have regular high beams. And then to the right side stalk, you have your one time there, intermittent, low, high. Then you can adjust your intermittent here. Then you have your rear wiper here. Pull back for the rear wiper fluid, push up for the front wiper fluid. And then Bluetooth button here. You can use these 4 arrows and this OK button to go through your gauge cluster. They go through your sub menus and all that. Go all the way back, there we go. And all of your settings are there if you ever need them. And then you can go deeper into each menu if you want to. And volume controls here, voice recognition. And then over here we have our track list radio station preset toggle, and then we can use this to go through our sources. Lane tracing with the steering assist and lane centering. And then gap adjust for your radar cruise control. You can adjust that as need be. Here's our push button start. And finally, here's the key fob. But next, let's go ahead and take this Highlander XLE out on the road for a quick test drive. So of course, where this, I think you lose horsepower compared to the V6 Highlander, but where this really shines is the torque you have. And you put your foot just a little bit into this thing and it'll pull you good, especially with it being front wheel drive. And I just like that feeling when I'm driving a vehicle. A lot of people don't. They rather have that naturally aspirated feel, but I just love turbos, always have. But for me, it's a no-brainer. You get better fuel economy. Now reliability, the V6 and the Highlander has a pretty good track record. How will the 4-cylinder hold up? It's hard to tell, but maintenance is probably going to be cheaper. If you have to replace the turbo, that'll be an issue, but we're putting these in all of these stock engines, and we're not really knowing long-term how they hold up yet, just because that's been the industry norm for the past few years. But I've had 2 4-cylinder turbo cars and I had no issues out of the turbos whatsoever. And for most people driving this every day, you're gonna save a lot more in terms of fuel economy. And you're really not losing in terms of your tow capacity. So 5,000 pounds is still pretty much more than enough for a typical Highlander owner, in my opinion. Because you don't expect to tow a massive boat or a horse trailer with a Highlander. But overall, driving is pretty similar since they've done the redesign in 2020. And it's still a great driving vehicle in that aspect. And to me, it just drives like a Camry SUV. So the steering is solid, the ride is solid. It's not overly plush or overly fancy, but for everyday driving, it's comfortable. And what I like about the Turbo 4 is having that awesome passing power. And I did that pull earlier in normal, and in sport, it goes nuts. It really does. So probably most Highlander buyers will not prefer that because they don't use it, but me, I'd be happier to have this engine as opposed to the V6. And just to show you, I'm gonna put in a sport now. And I'm just gonna put my foot into it. And you get a little bit of front tire spin as well, because you have a massive amount of torque with this front wheel drive vehicle. And for me, it's pretty fun to do, but 99% of the time you're not going to use that. But the storage in here is fantastic. I think the room that you get is great, especially if you have taller kids that are going to be riding with you, if you want to take all your friends to the club or whatever, you have pretty good seating room for at least 5 adults. And then depending on how tall they are and how far you're driving, you can fit some in the third row as well. But if you have 5 or 6 kids, you shouldn't have any issue fitting all of them in here. And the tires are just a little loud on this back road here, but the road is just old, so nothing bad, and I can barely hear when I'm talking. But just notice that. And I feel like the brakes seem more refined as well compared to the older Highlanders, because I know those had a tendency to be loud, especially as they got 60, 70,000 miles or more on them. But we're gonna go ahead and put it into sport mode. And I'm not gonna put my foot all the way to the floor, but I am gonna give it a little throttle getting on the interstate here. And that mid-range power is where this thing also impresses me. So I'm putting my foot down, and having a traditional 8-speed automatic helps, especially if you're manually shifting, but I decided I need a little bit more power than I was expecting, and the vehicle was ready to go. It didn't get confused or anything like that. So quite impressed there. And I have the radar cruise control on with the lane centering assistance. Fantastic system, as I've said several times, in Toyota. But I want to give another huge shout out to John Roberts Toyota for allowing me to review this Highlander, because they only have a handful of new cars, and the fact they're letting me drive these for the review is just really appreciative. But wind noise is starting to pick up around here as the storm's moving in, and still not intrusive in the least in this Highlander cabin. Of course, I can hear the wind, but it's not intruding or blowing me all over the place. So again, a great solid ride, and you can see the fuel economy there. I'm getting right at 40 right now, and of course, as I start to hit this incline on the interstate, it's gonna go down a little bit, but right now it's staying in that 35, well, I'd say 30 to 40 range. So depending on how you drive, you can probably beat the fuel economy that's suggested by the EPA. I'm gonna get over now. Now for the money, you can pretty much get a Pathfinder, relatively similarly equipped, I should say. And same thing with maybe an Explorer, Chevy Traverse, something like that. But this one has, I think, the most potent power feel, because it's the only one that has the turbocharged 4 in it, and the torque number is crazy. A Traverse, you get the V6 naturally aspirated, same thing with the Pathfinder. Now the Explorer, you can get a pretty peppy engine, but unless you get the ST, I feel like this thing feels a little faster. But that ST line is nice as well, but it's just a 2.3 liter turbocharged there. But if you want that Toyota reliability, hopefully it keeps with this 4-cylinder, which I don't expect it doesn't, but this will bring me to the end of my review of the 2023 Toyota Highlander XLE.